Brew Strong is brought to you by Blickman Engineering, home of the top-tier brewing stand. Visit them online at blickmanengineering.com.
It's time for the beer radio you've been looking for. This is the show that dispels myths, tackles the toughest topics, and makes no apologies for geeking out on beer. Hosted by two guys that drink before they think, Jamil Zainashev and John Palmer. This is Brew Strong.
Hey, howdy, hey, my brewing brothers and sisters.
Greetings. How you doing today?
Oh, tired. Just worn out. Just
What's
done.
new in the brewery business?
We were having some troubles with the chiller, and so one day I get down there to the brewery. There's chiller problems, so I go straight up on the roof. I had no time to get any breakfast or drink anything, water, no nothing. Go straight up on the roof. And the roof is like being in the middle of the Sahara.
Yeah.
Except painted white. You go snow blind in about 15 minutes up there. The whole roof is bright white with metal reflecting surfaces all over the place.
Oh, wow.
And there's enough of a parapet so you get no wind. So you're just like frying up. There's like being in a frying pan up there 6 hours. Nothing to eat, nothing to drink, working on this thing. Oh, my God. By the end, I just had it.
Yeah.
Done in. No. And then we moved to tank the other day, and that had its moments of sheer terror where I thought, if not me, at least somebody was going to die as the tank moved past its tipping point and started the wild plunge down. But luckily, we had strapped it just perfectly. It caught the tank, and no damage to the tank. Nobody got hurt. Nothing, no damage anywhere. It just stopped.
Wow.
Just moments away from killing people. It's like, okay, that's good. So, that's the brewery life. All you people that want to run a brewery, that's what you're looking for. Right there. How are you doing, Palmer?
I'm doing really good. It's
you must be seeing the light at the end of the Waterbook Tunnel then.
I have found the light. Or at least, I'm standing at the exit. Christy assures me that the only thing left to do is to look at the galleys in a couple of weeks. So otherwise, I'm done.
Yeah, there you go. How many pages do you think this thing's going to be?
Yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere around 80,000 words, I think.
Oh, that's a good chunk of pages right there.
Yeah. This last month has seen probably 50% more content added. It's been crazy just realizing that we had some unanswered questions and knuckling down to try to answer them, and everybody kind of pulling together to, particularly AJ, doing lab work, and the rest of us trying to figure out what it meant. Wow. And, really good effort. I think it's going to be a real valuable book for people.
I'm sure it will, like everything you've worked on. And that's one of the things I wanted to do today was talk about, one of the topics that seems to, we get questions all the time about this, about residual alkalinity and mash pH and how they're interrelated. And, we got a question from a listener just today or whenever it was.
Yesterday, I think it was, last night maybe.
Where he's like, pulling his hair out. He's like, all right, so if I'm adding these dark grains later on in the mash, where do I adjust my residual alkalinity? I'm like, do it here, do it there, and you were responding with, as far as, how long it takes for some of these buffering capacities to come into play. And, I mean, there's just so many factors there that it's driving people nuts. They're losing their mind over something like that. And me, I've always gone look, you use the water you got, maybe you throw in a handful of gypsum. There you go. Yeah. So I'm no help to these people. So I thought maybe you could be.
Yeah, it's a good topic for a whole show because, the minute you begin to scratch the surface, you realize how deep it goes.
It goes.
Yeah.
Well, but, and here's the other thing. We did the whole series of the Water Ganza shows. Where it was like 5 shows where we talked about nothing but water, and we thought, hey, we've got it covered. This is all you need to know about water. And the reality is, you and I are learning as we go, too. I mean, we know a fair amount of things, but, we get exposed to some new ideas. We try some more things. We, hear the latest thinking on this. And so, our opinions get updated, too, and our, tips for how to best brew get updated all the time as well. So it's kind of a good chance to revisit a very important part of the water subject, I think. Yeah.
Well, I think I definitely want to do a couple of shows with Colin in the studio too, so we can talk about the different lessons learned in the water book as we were writing. But certainly today we can start off with some of the basics and cover some of the basics again. There's, I mean, even in this area, just residual alkalinity, there's a bunch of stuff that we learned in the book, or during the course of writing the book, that it's good to it makes it good to start at the beginning and lay it all out again. See some details.
Right. Well. I'll tell you what. I wanted to talk about our fine sponsor, Blickman Engineering.
Before we get into
the water, absolutely. And I'm surprised that Blickman Engineering doesn't have like the auto water corrector device where you just put it there, you load it up with some common minerals, you stick your probe in your water, swizzle it around a little bit, and then it just does it. It's like pumps and whirring things and maybe some blades and mixing, and that comes like the perfect brewing water.
And a little steam whistle too, that'd be cute.
He would probably put a steam whistle on it, sure. No, or there'd be something hydraulic. I don't know. Something hydraulic, I'm thinking.
Actuator. Some sort of actuator.
That would be the case. It may be a hydraulically actuated seat, so you could just sit by. Well, this thing made the perfect water for you. You didn't have to think of it. That's the kind of innovation. Well, actually, they have better innovation than that.
Yeah, they do.
And that's the kind of great stuff you can find at BlickmanEngineering.com. Check them out. Blickman Engineering, they've been sponsoring the show for years, paying for the show so you don't have to. And I think they do it really, just out of the passion for homebrewing, and they think that we actually provide some sort of reasonable service to the community. And I think that's just a great thing. So if you get a chance, go to BlickmanEngineering.com. Send John Blickman an email. Say, hey, thanks for sponsoring the show. And most importantly, if you're going to be at the NHC in Philly this year, stop by the booth, say hi to John, say hi to the rest of the guys. I've sat with them and had dinner numerous times, out for drinks. They're all really nice people. A lot of fun to hang with. So don't be shy. Go in and introduce yourself and have a good time. Speaking of having a good time, BNA 8 is on my birthday.
Is it really?
June 26th. Yeah, it's my birthday. So I'm preparing to get my drink on. Have a good time at BNA 8. Scott's looking at me like, how freaking old must you be? You still have birthdays?
We have to rebrand the party now.
Right.
This is Jamil's birthday party that coincides with our 8th anniversary.
It's going to be. It's always around my birthday. This year it's actually on my birthday.
So when everyone asks you that obnoxious, is it your actual birthday? You get that like 12 times a day. You can go, yeah. it is.
Yeah, it's actually my birthday. So I'm looking forward to it. If you're going to be around the Philly area in June, I suggest getting yourself a ticket to the anniversary party before they're sold out. They're probably gone. They're down to the last few.
Close. Yeah, there's a few left, but only a few.
Yeah. So if you don't have a ticket yet, you better jump on it and come and party with me at my birthday, man. All right, let's do this. Let's take a short break. And when we come back, we'll get into residual alkalinity and the mash pH and all that good stuff right after this.
When you hear Blickman Engineering, think innovation, passion, quality, and customer service. Blickman gear is designed by brewers to give you a sense of pride in your equipment. At Blickman, they know what makes brewing a pain and build gear that makes it fun. Like the intuitive beer gun, a completely different approach to filling bottles. The Therminator Wort Chiller, a new take on a plate chiller that's sized for flow, performance, and the high groundwater temps homebrewers face every day. The Brewmometer, a brilliant weldless thermometer design with brewing parameters right on the dial. The Autosparge, ultimate simplicity for preventing an overflow or running your mash tun dry. And much more, like the modular top-tier brewing stand, conical fermenters, and their Boilermaker brew pots. With more cutting-edge equipment coming soon, keep up with the latest from Blickman at blickmanengineering.com and stay on the cutting edge. Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
Hey, my brewing brothers and sisters, this is Jamel Zanishev, and I love a bold, hoppy beer, one that spits resin in your face and makes you cry uncle. There are a lot of great hoppy beers out there, but at Heretic, we want to make something as bold, dank, and resiny as possible. We use hops at every chance we get, including multiple dry hop additions. The result is Heretic Evil Cousin. This light golden, 8% Imperial IPA has an easy malt character that helps take the edge off the massive bittering, but it takes a back seat to the in-your-face hop character. We make sure this beer finishes dry so the hops can jump out and slam you in the taste buds. If you can't get enough hoppy goodness, Evil Cousin is your cup of tea. Cheers.
For nearly 15 years, homebrewers have been served by one place in Michigan where you can buy yourself a serial killer grain mill. Adventures in Homebrewing. Did you try all those great Michigan beers at the National Homebrewers Conference in San Diego or Seattle? Adventures in Homebrewing delivered. Did you see a great false bottom in your buddy's cooler or brew kettle? Adventures in Homebrewing delivered that. And did you see that great custom-built brew stand? Yep, Adventures in Homebrewing delivered. Since 1999, Adventures in Homebrewing in Taylor, Michigan, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and online at homebrewing.org has been serving homebrewers across the globe. Check out their innovative 2.5-gallon keg with metal handles, great homebrew kits, and the fully adjustable serial killer grain mill. Visit them in Philly for the 2013 National Homebrewers Conference. Not gonna make it? Check out all the fun of Adventures in Homebrewing at homebrewing.org. For a limited time, coupon code BNetwork will slam 10% off your order. Bam! Adventures in Homebrewing. Join the adventure at the Great Lakes home for homebrewing supplies. Online at homebrewing.org. And don't forget coupon code BNetwork for a limited time. Join the adventure today.
Back to the two guys that know how to turn beer into beer. This is Brew Strong.
All right. We're back.
We're back.
We're brewing strong.
Yes.
I love that Scott put up a clock in the studio now. It's only been like 6 years I've been like, how come we don't have a clock?
Well, in Justin's defense, it was $11 at Lowe's.
That is going to break the BN budget. If you want to help with stuff like that, support our great sponsors like Blickman Engineering. You can buy stuff in the BN store, books. They got those cool stainless growlers, all sorts of stuff like that will help Justin afford things like a clock for the studio. There you go.
Yeah, those growlers are really awesome. I was checking one out this past weekend.
Oh, I haven't seen one yet. That's how high I rank in the BN Army.
They're badass. They keep beer cold for like a day, like refrigerator cold. It's amazing.
Yeah. Maybe somebody would give me one for my birthday. Maybe. We'll
you mean BNA 8?
Yes. Maybe that will happen. Who knows?
The TSA will probably take it away from you when you try to get back on the plane.
Probably.
Especially when you tell them it's called a warhead.
Yeah, it's just my warhead. What? then I'll be ready for the zero gauge at Adam and Eve. All right. So we're going to talk about residual alkalinity, and I don't want to go back over the whole basics of water and brewing and its importance to brewing. It's most of your ingredient in beer is water, so obviously it plays an important role. But what I would like is if you could kind of go over again, what is residual alkalinity, how that is differentiated between total alkalinity, residual alkalinity. What exactly are we talking about there?
Okay. The big picture is that we are concerned about mash pH. We want the grist and the water to come together to create a mash pH that is in the optimum range. What's the optimum range? Well, a lot of discussion about that among the experts, but it appears to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.2 to 5.6 measured at room temperature. The enzymes work well in that range. They actually work even better if you get above the range, so you get up around 6. But if you make the mash at a pH of 6, and then you start your boil and you add your hops, that high a wort pH will cause a different, harsher bitterness in your boil. It'll be like you've used a different hop variety, a little harsher hop variety than what you'd intended. So if the wort pH can change your beer character that way because of the way the hops isomerize. But going back to your water, when you look at a water report, you're interested in mainly 6 items. The calcium concentration, magnesium concentration, your alkalinity. Most likely you'll see a parameter called total alkalinity is calcium carbonate, or you might see bicarbonate concentration as ppm. Just for everybody's information, parts per million is equivalent to milligrams per liter. If you do the metric conversions and so on, it's really the same unit. Parts per million is equivalent to milligrams per liter. So you may see bicarbonate concentration, or you may see total alkalinity as calcium carbonate. Total alkalinity as calcium carbonate is more of what you want to see because that gives you the complete picture. When calcium carbonate dissolves in water, you get calcium coming off, of course, but you also get the carbonate, and the carbonate transforms into 3 different species depending on the pH. It can either exist as CO3, which has a -2 charge, HCO3, which has a -1 charge, or H2CO3, carbonic acid, which has no charge. H2CO3, carbonic acid, will in turn break down into carbon dioxide and water. So when we talk about acidifying water to get rid of the carbonates, to get rid of alkalinity, what we're doing is we're driving the pH of the water lower so that all those carbonates convert to carbonic acid, and from carbonic acid to carbon dioxide and water. The carbon dioxide vents and gets out of the system. That's how that gets eliminated. Total alkalinity measures by titration everything, all the carbonates that are in your water from the initial water pH. Let's say it's 8, 7.5, 8. You add acid and you titrate it down to a pH of 4.3 or 4.5, at which point you've neutralized 99% of the alkalinity in the water. You've converted about 99% of it to carbonic acid. That the amount of acid you use to do that is, measured in milliequivalents, is the total alkalinity as calcium carbonate. So that's why that number is important. From there, we look at how the calcium and magnesium interact with that. And that quantity is known as residual alkalinity. It was, invented, or it was described by Paul Kolbach in the 1950s. And he's a German brewing scientist, and he says that it takes 3.5 milliequivalents of calcium to neutralize 1 milliequivalent of alkalinity. So what you do is you look at your water report and you look at the calcium concentration, the magnesium concentration, and your total alkalinity, put them in an equation, and what you get is you get this neutralization effect. As soon as you make your mash, this much of the alkalinity will be neutralized by the calcium and magnesium reacting with the malt phosphates to neutralize that alkalinity. And that's what residual alkalinity is. That's how much alkalinity is left over that's going to affect your mash pH. You with me so far, Jamil?
Yeah, I probably have to listen to it 2 or 3 times, and I'll
I was afraid of that.
Right in there with you. Sure.
Okay. Quick recap. Residual alkalinity is the result of calcium and magnesium in the water and in the malt reacting with the phosphates in the malt. In doing so, they create a compound called, it's a calcium phosphate compound called apatite that releases a couple of protons. Those protons, or hydrogen ions, react with the alkalinity and convert your bicarbonate to carbonic acid, or your carbonate to bicarbonate, and so on. And that's what eliminates some of this alkalinity that's in the water. So what you're left with is what we call the residual alkalinity, how much alkalinity is left, and that residual alkalinity is what is present that's going to drive your mash pH up rather than down to your target level. So that's residual alkalinity in a nutshell.
Well, and what's happening normally with the mash, the grains that we use in beer, if you were to grind these up, throw them in some water, it's driving the pH of the water down. The mash, the entire mash, so the pH wants to go down. What's really stopping it from going down and reaching a certain point is this residual alkalinity. Exactly. Yeah. So too much residual alkalinity, pH doesn't go low enough, harsher bitterness, not as ideal a fermentation perhaps, and maybe not as nice a finish on the beer or crisp a finish on the beer.
That's correct, yeah. So you touched on the fermentation, and it's a good point to bring this up. A good fermentation can do a lot to correct a beer, to correct a poor brew, let's say. If the mash pH is high going into the boil, the active boiling will drop the pH a couple of tenths. Then you get to your fermentation. If this wort is a little high going in, the yeast in a good fermentation will do a lot to bring that down. The yeast metabolic processes also bring the pH of the wort down. So you can have a poor mash that's too high a pH, and a good fermentation will do a lot to correct that and make it into a beer that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. the problem with a high beer pH is that the beer tends to taste a little dull, a little lifeless. Doesn't seem to be any life to it, or brightness, I like to call it. And vice versa, if your pH due to dark grains or what have you is too low going into fermentation, again, the fermentation will do a lot to bring it up a little bit or to smooth it out. But again, if your beer pH is too low for this style, then the beer will taste a little bit sharp, a little bit one-dimensional, because the pH is just too low.
Well, and that's one of the other factors that you have to take into account when you're trying to get your pH is, with more dark grains in there, it tends to be a much lower pH in the mash if you're not controlling things versus an all pale malt. So, right. How are you accounting for? I know you got a chart, a nomograph in your excellent book, How to Brew, and it kind of helps you figure out based on color where you want your residual alkalinity to be, right?
Yeah, and what I learned in the course of the water book is that my nomograph was made with the best of intentions, but it's a lot of arm waving and smoke and mirrors, and it's maybe right half the time, or, to be fair.
It'll ballpark you, though.
It'll ballpark you, and it gets the basic idea is correct. And if as a brewer you look at that and say, "Oh, I'm brewing a dark beer. I need a little more alkalinity in my water," versus brewing a pale beer where I don't want alkalinity, that is completely true. It's when you try to assign numbers to things to say, I need this much alkalinity to brew this darker beer, that you really screw yourself up.
Because it really depends on how you're developing that dark color, right?
Yes.
Whether it's something that's really highly kilned or something that's lower kilned and you're using more of it, all the other grains that are in there, or if they're like crystal malts. I think crystal malts add a certain amount of color, but not as much acidity like the darker malts, the roasted.
Well, that's where it gets interesting. Yeah. We've done a lot of titrations over the last few years. Kai Troyster started out doing them several years ago, and one of his findings was that crystal malt, like Special B, the darkest of the crystal malts, had the highest acidity of any malt. More acidic than, say, chocolate malt or black patent.
Well, now, I'm not sure that is necessarily a function of... Because some crystal malts have a steeping period where they build up some acidity. I know, what is it, Special Roast from Breeze, or there's the one where it's got like a tartness to it. And,
there's that.
There may be that... They're maybe going through some of them where they double malt the things. They get them wet. Maybe it's some lactic acid builductic. I don't know. It's like if you took acid malt and throw it in. It's a real pale in color, but it's got lactic acid all over it. So I think that there might be something in there as far as I would imagine it has a lot to do with the maltster.
Yes, that is true. What based off research I've done in some of the technical journals, and there's a gentleman in Belgium by the name of Cohn, and I forgot the other guy's name, but they did some studies with different malts, different specialty malts, the highly kilned caramel malts versus short roasted malts and long roasted malts. And what they were able to show in a couple of different studies was that the melanoidins change when you hit roasting temperatures. You shift from a yellow-red melanoidin to a brown melanoidin at around 325 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And so if you spend a lot of time with the caramel malt and take it up to, as dark as you can get it, at say 300, 325 in there. And then you pull some and test it, and then you keep that the rest of the batch in the oven, and now crank it up a little bit hotter to 350, and then pull some after 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and so on as you get to higher temperatures. You see this shift in both the color of the malt and in the acidity of it. The acidity starts dropping. They were able to show that acetic acid is a byproduct of the Maillard reactions, and that I believe their speculation at this point is that you have your highest concentration of acetic acid at your maximum color at below 350. Above 350, the acetic acid starts boiling off.
Acetic acid, yeah.
So that's part of it. Also, the fact that these red melanoidins that are acidic themselves are polymerizing and converting to brown melanoidins. And so as that process continues, at higher temperatures and longer times, the acidity is also dropping.
Well, see, like I was saying, there's some sort of acid in there.
Yeah.
It's not it's not as simple as just color necessarily. It's so many things of how the malt is being prepared. Very interesting. I hadn't heard any of that.
There's not been a lot of work done in this area, so I don't think it's conclusive, but certainly it
makes sense.
This is what the data suggests,
Oh, and it's quite logical.
Yeah. So what we're seeing in a mash is that depending on what proportion of different proportions of different specialty malts you use in a recipe, you may have a similar composite acidity between, say, a brown ale and a dry stout, or between a West Coast Blaster, a West Coast amber ale, may be more acidic than, say, a Schwarzbier, even though the Schwarzbier looks darker.
Right.
And so that, in terms of looking at my nomograph and how to brew, where you assign, I need this much alkalinity to this darker beer, that's where that all kind of falls apart, is because there's different values of acidity for the different malts. And it turns out that if between two caramel 60 malts or two chocolate malts from different maltsters, really different acidities.
Because you depend on times and temperatures and
lactic acid, bacteria, and everything.
Yeah.
So this is some of the stuff we found out during the course of the book.
Well, and I think that it's just a fascinating thing, and I'm so glad that Brewers Publications is doing a book like this. I think their idea of doing yeast and water and malt and hops, I think it's a great idea. Really, the fundamental building blocks and going in depth, and that's Brewers Publication is it's kind of a separate entity, I guess, but it's part of the Brewers Association, and
right.
as is the AHA, and I think that and come to speak of it, I guess homebrewing is legal in all 50 states now. Due in part to efforts by the AHA.
That's right.
And I think they're just a great organization and worthy of our support, because they're out there fighting the good fight for homebrewers and doing things like this, like ensuring that books like this water book are getting written. So I'm real pleased. If you get a chance, if you're not already an AHA member, I want you to go to the Brewing Network site, look for that AHA logo, and sign up. A little portion of that goes to the Brewing Network, helps Justin afford clocks for the studio, and the rest goes to the AHA. You get stuff like Zymergy magazine, great magazine, and John, you've written stuff for Zymergy.
Yeah.
You get the pub discount program. You can come down to Heretic, you get discount, AHA discount. You get members session you can get at GABF. There's just tons of stuff. Well worth it. Again, great organization and worth supporting. with your hard-earned dollars. Anyways, let's take a short break. When we come back, I want to hear more about some of the new stuff you've figured out with residual alkalinity and adding salts to the mash. All right, back after this.
Hi, I'm Jason Harris, the proud owner here at Keystone Homebrew Supply. We're thrilled to be entering our 20th year of supplying this great industry, and to show you, the Brewing Network Army, how much we appreciate your support, we're offering you 10% off your first order on our website, KeystoneHomebrew.com. Just use coupon code BNARMY at checkout, and I'll get your order out the same day. My goal at Keystone Homebrew Supply has always been to have a complete supply of everything a brewer could want. When you place your order online or when you come into our store, it's our goal to have everything on your list and more. One aspect of KeystoneHomebrew.com that we're really excited about is the ability to fulfill customers' exact grain bills. Do you hate to wait? Keystone Homebrew Supply can get your precious yeast and hops to you within just one day if you live between Connecticut and Virginia, and within 2 days east of the Mississippi. KeystoneHomebrew.com. Coupon code BNARMY. I'm Jason Harris, and I approve this message.
Tin, Getting tired of that same old handcrafted beverages day after day? Are you looking for something with more diversity than your normal beer? Fellow BN Army member Michael Fairbrother, owner of Moonlight Meadery, is reviving an entire beverage category, mead.
The meads at Moonlight Meadery are all handcrafted from the finest honey on the market and are perfect for any occasion, like weddings, baby showers, or...
Excuse me? Mead is not your average girly drink, mister, and Moonlight meads can be enjoyed anytime, anywhere. Football games with the guys.
Yeah.
Barbecues with the guys.
Yeah.
Operating power tools with the guys.
Yeah. Actually, sir, that's really dangerous.
Good point, son.
Next time you have something to celebrate or are just looking for a new tasting experience, pick up a bottle of mead from Moonlight Meadery. Now in 21 states, making over 60 varieties of mead from dry, semi-sweet to sweet.
Break out of that craft beer lull. Grab a bottle of Moonlight mead. Can't find some? Then ask. No, make that demand some.
Yeah!
Have you ever been stuck with a last-minute brewing question? Maybe on a new piece of equipment or a recipe kit you haven't tried before. The Brewmeister knows how that feels and is here for you. The Brewmeister prides themselves on personal service and advice to all of their customers, whether in-store or online. The Brewmeister is a full-fledged home brew store, too, with all the ingredients and gear you need to make great beer and wine. You'll be glad you visited shopbrewmeister.com or one of their stores in Roseville or Folsom when you need to pick up the phone and get your brewing questions answered fast. Visit shopbrewmeister.com right now and see the personal difference the great team at the Brewmeister have to offer. If you visit today, use coupon code BNARMY and get 10% off your first order. Some conditions apply. The Brewmeister, personal service and advice with exceptional quality. Shopbrewmeister.com.
A vial of White Labs yeast is the key to your best beer. When you open a vial of White Labs yeast, you're giving your beer its best chance for a perfect fermentation. In addition to their already incredible variety of yeasts, White Labs is proud to announce WLP 90, San Diego's super yeast, now available year-round. WLP 90 is super clean, super fast fermenting, with low esters and has a neutral flavor and aroma profile. It's alcohol tolerant and highly flocculent. For more of the latest White Labs news, click over to whitelabs.com, where you can read reviews of yeast, learn in the lab section, and join the customer club. And if you should find yourself in San Diego, White Labs has a brand new training facility for craft brewers and home brewers alike. Whitelabs.com. Discover yeast, nutrients, enzymes, and more for commercial breweries, home brewers, and homebrew stores. White Labs. It's all in the vial.
Back to your hosts, Jamil Zainasheff and John Palmer. Putting the testicles in technical. This is Brew Strong.
All right, so, John, we talked in the past about how you go about adjusting your mash and things like that, but, from discussing things with you recently, it sounds like you've got some new thoughts on how to add your salts, new thoughts on adjusting for residual alkalinity?
Right. I guess one way to frame up this, my current views, the way my views have changed on the mash pH and adjusting the mash pH.
You believe now every grain should be allowed to marry with every other grain, regardless of color?
If it's married grain, yeah.
It's just about who you love, man.
Yeah. Where am I going with this?
Your views?
Well, Jamil, here's one way to frame it up.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about, our mash, pH performance, and over the last 10 years.
We've talked about our performance over the years. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like when I say, Jamil, how did you get to be so awesome? You would say, well, I checked my mash pH, and I would add acid if it needed it, and let it go. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, damn, didn't add much, gypsum or calcium chloride, or didn't, add any alkalinity. He just brewed, and he gave it a damn good fermentation. Well, and you look at other great brewers in the industry, such as Sierra Nevada and Stone and New Belgium, and
yes, I think putting me as a homebrewer up there with Sierra Nevada and Stone and New Belgium, that's a good comparison right there. Yeah,
but it is really. I mean, you look at because we're all basically doing the same thing.
True. Whether you're home brewing, commercial brewing, whatever. It's the same darn process. The mash as a home brewer is the mash as a professional brewer.
Yeah. So, where did the differences come in? Well, and I was always a little bit flabbergasted or bummed out, or, that professional brewers would just like acidify their water and mash and check the pH and, we're good, go. And it's like, why does that work? Well, now I understand why that works. Mash pH, if you get in that 5.2 to 5.6 range, you're good. You've got more than half the struggle of getting your beer flavor to be expressed right to your palate. There's a quote that I put in the book from a gentleman, a brewing scientist named Dave Taylor. This was in an article of his in the MBAA in 1990. He did a paper called The Importance of pH Control During Brewing. And he says, the key point for control of pH throughout the brewing process is during mashing. This is due to the major influence that can be exerted at this stage on the content and format of the buffer systems that will operate subsequent to in the wort and beer. Let me say it again. That will operate subsequently in the wort and beer. So by getting the pH right in the mash, you set the stage for getting the pH right during the boil and in the final beer. Mm-hmm. And so that's why mash pH is important. And that's what with the way you were brewing, where you were, checking your pH, acidifying if needing, adding a little gypsum if you felt it needed it, and you would get these, very tasty beers out. That's why it works, because you set that pH up in the beginning. Mm-hmm. And that's I guess that's one change in my attitudes that's occurred over the last couple of years of working on this book, is realizing that it's not a matter of getting all the right Legos, in front of you. Mm-hmm. It's a matter of actually building the structure that needs to be there to get the beer flavor right. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to worrying about minerals in the water, mineral concentrations, I want to emulate Dortmund water. I want to emulate Dublin water, or Munich water, or this water or that water, Burton. It's a step in the right direction because it gets you thinking about water. Mm-hmm. But the real key is measuring your pH.
Right. What I was told early on was when I first started all grain brewing, Chris Graham came out and showed me how to all grain brew. And the thing he emphasized was pH. He says, like, just get your pH. We're talking about water. He's like, no, don't worry about any of that. As long as you got the fundamental basic minerals in there for the yeast to be healthy and for things to occur during the boil and all that, just get your pH in range, and then you can fine tune everything later. It's just you got to start with that right pH.
That is very true. That really is the bottom line.
And what happened to me, sorry to keep interrupting you, but as I think about this, what happened to me was, so I started out just adjusting for pH, and I'm thinking, okay, later on I will fine-tune with the gypsum and the Burton treatments and all that stuff. Once I just get the basics down with the pH and the fermentation, I got that dialed in, then I'll, and by the time I got to that point, I realized that I didn't need to add all these Burton salts and Burtonize the water and a lot of gypsum and things like that. Small adjustments, that kind of got it a little bit better dialed in, but it wasn't anywhere near what people were saying you needed.
Right.
And it wasn't anything like the types of water that I was being reported as being used in places like Burton-on-Trent and things like that. So I just kind of gave up on that aspect of it. I'm like, I don't really need it. Water's fine.
Yeah. And that made me sad, but yes. Now I understand.
Right. Why
you can brew great beer without putting lots of neat salts in. Which is really, it's actually a good thing. When you look at the big picture, it's good that brewers don't have to recreate some obscure natural spring water in Bavaria to make great beer. How much time we got?
Oh, you got a couple of minutes.
Okay. A couple interesting things we learned. I talked to numerous brewers around the country, microbrewers, Sierra Nevada, New Belgium, New Glarus, a lot of news actually. But they all agreed that when you're brewing a dark beer, you do need more alkalinity in the water to help balance the dark malts. Otherwise, your pH can go a little low. Well, if you look at brew shops and you look at home brewing books like my own and Noonan's and Papazian's and most of them, we all talk about adding chalk to water to raise the alkalinity. Well, it turns out chalk doesn't work. Chalk really doesn't dissolve, and if it does dissolve, you can if you dissolve it by overpressurizing with carbon dioxide, basically making seltzer water. That's about the only way you can get it to work. But even if you use chalk in that way, it reacts slowly. A.J. DeLange did some really interesting experiments this last month where he monitored pH over 3 hours using chalk additions in the mash, just to add as added powder, and then he adds some where it's dissolved as well. But he found that it would take like 3 hours for the alkalinity to stabilize and make a stable change in the mash pH. You could get a superficial pH change in the water, where else, you pour in some chalk and you take a pH reading right there, and the pH would be like 8, compared to the 5.4 you're hoping for from 4.9. But as you stir and wait, that pH would start dropping back down. And, if you wait a little while, it would drop right back down to 4.9. It took a lot of chalk and a lot of time for it to really raise mash pH. Calcium hydroxide, on the other hand, worked better. But in the case of calcium hydroxide, you had the calcium and its residual alkalinity effect, according to the Kolbach equation. So you would end up getting about 70% net alkalinity out of it because of the calcium component. But hydroxide reacts much faster in the mash than bicarbonates and carbonate. in the order of, say, 10 to 15 minutes for the pH to stabilize versus half an hour to an hour.
Well, and how are the big brewers doing these adjustments then for their dark beers? How are
a lot of them are using hydroxides.
Oh, really? Okay.
Sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing that heavy an addition. Other brewers are they have naturally alkaline water to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
If they're, say, cutting with RO water or diluting with RO water to get the alkalinity down, they would just cut back on their dilutions to bring it back. That's probably the most common way a lot of brewers are handling their dark beers. And then in other cases, they're brewing with their standard water and just settling for a low mash pH and a low beer pH. I mean, the beer doesn't taste bad. It's just not the same as it would be if it was just 0.2 higher.
Well, and people have been using chalk for a long, long time in brewing.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's not like somebody, just tried it recently. This has been going on for a huge amount of time, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure how to. I can't
think
justify.
The chalk has any effect, or
based on AJ's results, monitoring known additions to a known malt. We were using a malt that he had titrated thoroughly, so we knew exactly how it would react at different pHs, and then making a mash with it, monitoring pH over a couple hours, making known additions of chalk, and seeing no real change in mash pH.
I'd be curious to taste a couple of beers brewed, side by side with one with chalk and one without, and see what kind of
taste
flavor
the chalk
difference. Yeah,
you definitely taste the chalk. I mean, that is. There's no arguing that. It's just what we're saying is if you do these chalk additions, it's just not effective in raising the mash pH.
Right.
The chalk is still there.
Yeah, I wonder if you get, if the total net effect is somehow similar or as satisfying as if you had just adjusted the pH or not, as long as you're still within certain ranges. That's a curious question, I think.
Yeah.
Speaking of curious questions, there's our other great sponsor, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
And if you've got some curiosity, I suggest you go check
your birthday's coming up, isn't it?
My birthday's coming up. I could use a few gifts. If a warhead is not in my future, I think maybe something from Adam and Eve is. And I'll tell you what, you go to adamandeve.com, you use my name as your offer code, Jamil, Jamil, and what you're going to get, you get 50% off of just about any one item in the store. There's just thousands and thousands of items, and I have not seen anything they didn't give the discount on, but I'm sure there is. But just about any one item. And just by buying that one item at 50% off, you get 3 free adult DVDs of your choosing. You choose from categories like anal, amateur, Asian, big breasts, big butts, bisexual, chunky, co-eds, fetish, gay, interactive, POV, lesbian, MILFs, etc. And so you get those 3 free DVDs of your choosing, and then they're going to throw in an extra toy for you or a special gift for you that's so sensual we can't mention it on the radio. And free shipping. So you buy one, you use Jamel as your offer code. You get one item 50% off. You get free shipping, 3 free DVDs, a free gift. Can't go wrong. So check them out. You can even do it from your mobile phone. You find yourself, I forgot to get Jamel a gift. Let me pull out my phone. Let me go to adamandeve.com. Let me order. Let me have that giant dildo for him at BNA8. Right? It's the gifts that keep on giving. Especially if you throw in some extra batteries for it. I think that's the way to go. All right, let's take a short break, and then we'll wrap up real quick right after this.
BN Army, HopTech has a great discount waiting for you. Do you often find it difficult to find specific specialty ingredients for your homebrew recipes? Well, listen to this. HopTech stocks 59 different grains to choose from, 39 varieties of pellet hops, and 8 kinds of whole leaf hops. And HopTech not only carries Y yeast and White Labs yeast for you, but also Fermentus, 04, 5, 6, 23, 33, and T58 Belgian yeast, plus Cooper's, Nottingham, and Windsor yeasts. Got your recipe ready to go? Pick up some great brew gear like new long and short sleeved shirts, games, and more. HopTech's new website is being updated every day with new items. If you don't see it, call the shop. They're open 6 days a week. BN Army and AHA members get a 10% discount, and active military personnel get 15% off. Visit HopTech.com today for great selection, great service, and a great discount. HopTech.com.
That's it. I've had it. I am never putting hops in my beer again.
What? Why?
It's just too ridiculous. Insane prices, stupid contracts, high shipping costs, crappy selection.
Dude, you need Nico Brew. Nico Brew will rock your f***ing face right the f*** off your f***ing skull. $5 shipping to all 50 states. Plus fantastic international rates get you low prices on Nico Brew's great selection of hops and more. Whether you're a home brewer, a pro brewer, or a homebrew shop owner, Nico Brew can get you the hops you need in increments big and small. Single orders, spot buys, or full contracts. And there's only one place to join the uber special secret elite bare bones club where you'll get the best deals anywhere.
Holy f***ing shit.
NicoBrew.com. NIKOBREW. Nico Brew, your bare bones buddy in the brewing business.
Tonight is the night.
We bring the creature to life, Dr. Blickmanstein?
Yes, J.P. Gore. Everything is perfect for my next fermented creation.
My doctor, the storm is too far away. We'll never have enough power to isomerize the creature's alpha acid.
Yes, J.P. Gore, we will. For I have in my possession the Tower of Power.
Blickman's new Tower of Power is the evolution of automation. Control hot liquor, sparge, and mash temps like a pro. The Tower of Power is a high-quality gas-fired rim system that works with your current brewing setup. With ultra-precision, the tower can hold your mash to 1/2 of a degree Fahrenheit. Precision and repeatability. The Tower of Power is the answer to automatic, fast ramp times. See more at BlickmanEngineering.com. Bring your next creation to life with the Tower of Power.
Dr. Blickmanstein, with the Tower of Power, you can probably give me an afternoon at the pub to enjoy a pint.
Don't be silly, J.P. Gore. We have beer to brew.
When I order a beer, I want my server to know more about it than I do. I want someone who enjoys good beer and loves helping others enjoy it too. I want someone who knows how to pour a perfect pint for any beer style. I want a Cicerone. The Cicerone certification program is creating the type of people who help you enjoy great beer. Home brewers and craft beer lovers know beer is more flavorful and complex than ever, and it takes some serious knowledge to store and serve beer right. Cicerones know beer. There are 3 levels in the Cicerone program: Certified Beer Server, Certified Cicerone, and Master Cicerone. Cicerones are truly the sommeliers of beer. The best beer locations have a certified Cicerone on staff. Relaxed and unpretentious, Cicerones are tested on storing and serving beer, beer styles, flavor and tasting, the brewing process and ingredients, and pairing food with beer. Learn more about your next beer guide at cicerone.org. Certified Cicerone, because it takes top talent to present a perfect pint.
All right, BN Army, it's trivia time. What's the only homebrew shop with over 1,000 recipe kits, $4.99 shipping on orders over $100, and is also home of the Wolf shirt? The one and only answer is Austin Homebrew Supply. For over 20 years, they've specialized in creating recipes such as the best-selling Texas Blonde Ale, Apocalypso, Hop Bomb 2.0, and Double Chocolate Stout. And they just recently unveiled their small grain kits that produce 1 gallon of beer. Visit AustinHomebrew.com to browse their extensive catalog of equipment and ingredients. They also have mini-clone recipes of your favorite commercial beers. They're the exclusive retailer of BrewVent yeast fuel as well, Yeast Nutrient, and the all-new Bodybuilder. Follow Austin Homebrew Supply on Google Plus to participate in video hangouts on popular brewing topics. So visit AustinHomebrew.com today and make sure you sign up for their weekly email with news and specials. Austin Homebrew Supply, AustinHomebrew.com.
back to the beer guys that make other beer guys look like wine guys. Brew Strong.
All right. Learning about residual alkalinity
and water.
Yes. So,
and carbon dioxide, too.
I was probably cutting you off there at some point, and you had other thoughts about residual alkalinity and adjusting for your water and tips for people to, every time we do one of these shows, I'm sure people are sitting there going like, so, okay, I've understood what you've said. Now, how the hell do I get started?
Yeah, where do I do now? Yeah. Water is complicated, unfortunately. I learned how complicated when I picked up this book project. Colin and I were just shaking our heads constantly trying to understand, different findings and different concepts.
Well, if you shake it too much, you're playing with it.
Yeah. I think a couple of big picture things to keep in mind. One is that your mash pH is key.
Mm-hmm.
You get your mash pH right, your wort pH should be right, and your beer pH should be right.
Improves stability of the beer. You got to get that final pH right.
Yeah, it really does a lot to improve the beer. If you can take a bottoms up approach, if you will, and try to say, okay, I'm gonna create a mineral profile to emulate Dortmund's water and try to brew a Dortmund beer. That works. We're going to have another show where I talk about specific mineral additions and so on, as to actually how those come together.
That sounds really complex.
It gets complex. The whole bicarbonate issue. AJ and I came up with a concept that we call Z alkalinity. For Ziel alkalinity, it's a German word meaning goal. Because if you look at total alkalinity, you're measuring the amount of alkalinity or acid to neutralize alkalinity down to 4.3. But if you're only going to 5.4, your mash pH, that's a lesser value. And so the amount of alkalinity that you actually get from the water to counteract dark malts is less than the total alkalinity of the water. It's less than the residual alkalinity of the water. So, again, there's another whole area where we should have a show and explain how that works.
All right. Well, let me jump in here and say, all right, just to wrap this up.
Yep.
For people to get started, unless you have really soft water, I would just take the water you got, try adding some acid to that, some lactic or phosphoric acid, get into, kind of into the target pH range, and then, or a couple of points above, and then make sure that's stable. Then mix that with your grains on a standard batch of pale ale or whatever it might be,
right?
And see what pH you end up with. Don't freak out if it's not the ideal pH. Go ahead and brew that beer. Later on, brew that thing again. If you were a little high that time, use acid to drive your pH down to your target goal. Mix it with those grains, and you should be there. And if you're not, you could adjust it again. But just try that to start with. Just get the pH in the right range, and don't worry about all the other stuff. And once you've got that basic skill down, everything else becomes so much easier. Then you can start, when you do different, then go ahead and make a stout and then see, I need to back off on the amount of acid, X amount. You can guess a couple of points, right? And then you'll get that dialed in, and then you can start worrying about all the other additions and all the other changes. I think that really, for somebody to get started with water, worrying about water, I think that's the thing to worry about. Just try that.
I agree with you, Jamil.
Easy to do.
And one key point in all of this is that we're saying measure your mash pH.
Yes.
For that, you need to get a pH meter.
Yes.
pH test strips just won't cut it, especially if you're a little bit colorblind. Get a pH meter. You're going to have to spend a little bit of money, but you can get a fairly decent one for $80.
Mm-hmm.
You can, and that will give you pretty accurate readings, and it makes a confident basis that you can make adjustments from.
Well, there you go. A confident basis to make adjustments from. That's what we all need, is a confident basis. All right. Excellent show, John. If you're listening live, stay tuned. We're going to do a Brew Strong Q&A. Your questions that you ask, you send them into brewstrong@thebrewingnetwork.com, label them with Q&A, and we'll try and get to those during shows as we can. There's a lot of them, but we'll try and keep up with them. A few hundred to go through, 300 and something.
Okay.
All right. And then if you're not listening live, then you got about 2 weeks to the next show. If you get a chance, go by the Brewing Network store. Check out all the fine things we got there. There's books, hats, glassware, the Warhead growlers. There's all sorts of great stuff in there. And when you buy that stuff, it goes to the bottom line of the Brewing Network. Helps keep shows like this going. Helps keep Justin happy, and that keeps us all going. So don't hesitate to check all that out. And don't forget to check out our great sponsor, Blickman Engineering, blickmanengineering.com. Paying for the show so you don't have to. That should be their new motto. Not innovating homebrew. Paying for the show so you don't have to. Till then, brew strong.
Brew strong, everybody.